All right. I had actually one thing that I wanted to share with everybody. This is just in case you're interested. We have been talking about these different voting systems and different methods for evaluating how fair they are. And we have this big chart that we keep on going back to. Actually, we are pretty much done with adding stuff onto the big chart. I believe the chart that we have has 5 rows of different voting systems, and then, is it 5 columns, different criteria for evaluating elections? That chart that we have been talking about is actually only a very small portion of all the different methods and criteria that are known. We, for the sake of our class, I only picked out sort of 5 of each, but there's actually many more, and I just wanted to share with you. This is one of my favorite Wikipedia articles. I don't know if you guys are into the Wikipedia comparison of voting rules. You should check this out if you're interested. You will see here many different evaluation criteria for various voting rules, and I would like to especially draw your attention. There's lots of stuff here. Here, this big chart. So this is, sorry, that's not even what I wanted to look at. There's a bigger one. Come on now. There we go, this one. So here is a more comprehensive version of the big chart that we have been talking about in our class. Ours only had 5 by 5, but here you can see, so like that first column is the majority criterion, which was our first column also. But then there's this other thing called majority loser, mutual majority. Those are like different variations on the majority. Then we have the Condorcet winner, which is something we talked about. There's also something called the Condorcet loser, which is similar but not the same. And then down the side here, you can see all these different voting systems. Here's Borda, which we did talk about, but there's other ones, and I'm not familiar with most of these. There's the Coombs. I actually kind of like the Coombs, but we never talked about the Coombs. There's Dodson. Anybody recognize that name? This is the real name of the mathematician and author, otherwise known as Lewis Carroll, who wrote like Alice in Wonderland. He was in his day job, he was a mathematician, and he actually invented a strange voting system. But anyway, I am just. There's the plurality right there. This is all just to demonstrate how much of this stuff is actually known about, and there are many, many more things in this area of mathematics that we haven't talked about. I mean, we could spend the whole semester doing more and more of these, although I want to get onto other things. But this is just my little preview, or it's not a preview because we're not actually going to talk about this stuff, but just to show you there is a sort of huge universe of these topics far beyond what we're doing in our class. Any thoughts about that? Check it out if you're into, you could read this article all night long if you're into that. All right, let's get down to it then for today. Okay, so I would like to talk about one more. Really, we have, I would say, probably today plus maybe half of another day about these voting systems, and then we'll be done with this as a major topic. So if you've started to get fed up with this stuff, we are almost done. What I would like to talk about today is one last sort of voting system criteria, although we're not going to put it on the chart for reasons which will become clear in a moment. But this is called manipulability. Manipulability, all right? And this is about, this is a concern that people will often raise if you start talking about using a more mathematically sophisticated voting systems. The question is, with a, I will say, mathematically complicated system, people worry that voters could game the system somehow. or this is also known as manipulate the system. I don't mean by real cheating, but I mean in these more complicated systems, you could imagine people, if the system is complicated enough, maybe there's some kind of mathematical loophole in the design of the system which allows people to game the system, to sort of work the system. Again, I don't mean by actual cheating, I just mean voting in some kind of weird way which has some kind of weird mathematical effect that games the system, all right? This is like with the plurality system. The plurality is very simple, and this is kind of something that's good about the plurality. It's so simple that there isn't much opportunity for people to come up with sort of deep strats to game the system, all right? With these other more complicated mathematical systems, though, this becomes a real concern. There may be a way that voters could game the system or manipulate, or sometimes this is called strategic voting. Maybe the system is so weird that actually you don't want to vote like for your true opinions, but you want to somehow craft your vote in a weird way to achieve some kind of weird outcome. All right, this is the concern when we're talking about manipulability. So for example, let's say, like if I truly feel like voting, say ABC, but the system is weird, so maybe I should vote in a different way, like maybe I should vote BAC instead. And somehow, because the system is so weird, somehow this other vote, which is not actually my true opinion, but it may be that the system is so weird that somehow this other vote will achieve my original goal better than my my true vote. All right, this is the idea behind this concern about manipulability. So what I want to talk about today is, of the various systems that we've discussed, which ones can be gamed in this way and which ones are more sort of honest. An honest system would be one in which every voter should always just say their true opinion and they would never have any reason to vote in some kind of weird strategic way. All right. So here's a technical definition of what I'm talking about here. So we say a system is manipulable, and this is generally regarded as bad because it means that people aren't gonna just vote in a straightforward way. They're gonna try and vote in weird ways. So a system is manipulable if a voter can achieve a better outcome, I will say, in their own opinion. Of course, all the voters disagree about what a good outcome is, but I'm talking about an individual voter can achieve a better outcome in their own opinion by voting differently from their true preferences. All right. That is to say, it is possible to game the system by voting in a weird way. You decide first how you feel, but then how you feel is not necessarily how you vote. You vote in a weird way to achieve the best outcome, but you're not necessarily going to vote in the way that you truly feel. All right. This, if that's possible in your system, then it's called manipulable, and I will just say parenthetically, this is bad, because it makes people strategize when they vote. In such a system, it means that you shouldn't actually vote for your true feelings. It means you should think about your true feelings, but then also think about some kind of strategy by which your vote can achieve the most. And this may not be the same as voting for your true feelings. So this is bad. It makes people strategize when they vote. I will just say it's better if everyone could just vote their true feelings, right? This would be a better, it would be simpler that way. All right, that's the idea. Let's talk about some specific examples. Actually, so I said one thing good about plurality is that it's simple enough so that there's not much opportunity for people to come up with bizarre strategies to work the system. But actually, it is possible to manipulate the system even in the plurality. So the plurality is manipulable. And this actually is not very hard to see examples when it is beneficial for some of the voters to vote contrary to their true opinions. For example, we could look at the, let's look at the Bush-Gore-Nader election. The classic example. The Bush-Gore-Nader, I will refresh your memory about the numbers here. There was, in millions, 2.9 million people said Bush-Gore-Nader. 2.9 million people said Gore-Bush-Nader. And then 0.1 millions said Nader, Gore, Bush. All right? And here, when we do the plurality, remember the plurality is the simplest one. It just means you only look at the top row here, and it says Bush gets 2.9 million, Gore gets 2.9 million, Nader gets 0.1 million. Now, it looks like a tie because I rounded these off, but of course we all know in real life, this is how they really did the election, and Bush was the winner. Bush wins. That's because Bush, in that case, he actually did have a very slightly higher amount. I just rounded them off so it looks like a tie, but in real life, Bush was the winner. Okay, now, I would like to look at these voters. So maybe like I usually do in these kinds of scenarios, I'm just gonna circle the winners here so that we're clear on who the winner was. And I would like to know, in this election, could any of the voters change their votes to obtain a better outcome? And by better, I mean better in their own opinion. Could any of the voters change their votes to obtain a better outcome? So what you should be looking for is, for instance, I could look at the first column, right? These voters, they liked Bush the best. Is it possible they could have changed their vote to get a better outcome? I would say no, because the outcome was already the best it could have been in this scenario for them. In their opinion, their favorite person ended up winning, so they have no reason to change their mind to get a better outcome because they got the best outcome already, right? Anybody see how, so it's not these people. One or the other of these people actually could have changed their vote to achieve a better outcome. I mean better in their own opinion. See something?
If the second, like if the people who put Gore first, if they had put Nader above Bush, would that
If they had put Nader above Bush. Okay, so yeah, we have to, this is a good idea. If we imagine what would happen if these people put Nader on top, I think then the plurality winner, actually Nader would have won this election if they did that, right? Because then there'd be an N here, and N would get 2.9 plus 0.1. And then you have to think, okay, if they change in that way, then Nader would win. Is that a preferable outcome in their opinion? I think it's not, because actually Nader was their last choice. So these people don't want Nader to win, so they should not make that choice. Any other ideas? Yeah?
For the third column, if they voted for Gore above Nader, I feel like he was like the second best choice.
Yeah.
Voters wanted, so.
Right. These people right here, Bush was the actual winner, which is their worst possible outcome, all right? But if they put Gore up here, then Gore becomes the winner, and that at least is the second best in their opinion. That is an improved outcome, all right? So could any of the voters, the answer here is yes. The Nader voters, so the Nader, Gore, Bush, so Bush being the winner here, can change to Gore, Nader, Bush. And what is the effect of that? So then it looks like After you make that change, the election now says 2.9 million Bush, Gore, Nader, 2.9 million Gore, Bush, Nader. I didn't change those. But then this one, 0.1, Gore, Nader, Bush, right? And now when we add up the plurality, we get Bush 2.9, Gore 3.0, Nader 0. And now Gore wins. And this, the important thing is, this is actually a preferable outcome in those people's opinions. This is a better result, all right? And so this Gore wins is a better outcome for the Nader, Gore, Bush voters. All right? So the moral of the story is, so they should have voted Gore, Nader, Bush. All right? And this, of course, is what everybody said after this election. All the Gore fans were angry with Nader. They said, like, Nader, you totally screwed us on this one. Even though the Nader people also would have wanted Gore to win, because they voted in this way, it caused Gore to lose, right? If with a little bit of strategizing, they could have made Gore win instead of Bush, all right? Gore wins is a better outcome for the Nader, Gore, Bush voters, so they should have voted for this other way instead. And I think this is something that everybody knows about the plurality system. It's actually not in your best interest to vote for your true opinion. Like, if I think my mom would be a great president, it is still a bad idea for me to vote for my mom to be the president, because I know that my mom is not going to be the president. I should vote for Kamala or Trump, because they're the only ones who really matter in the election. All right. This is a basic fact about plurality that basically everybody knows at some level. These people who voted for Nader, they could have got a better result if instead they voted Gore on the top. And so that means plurality is manipulable. All right. It means these Nader voters, in order to achieve the best result, they should not have voted for their true favorite, which was Nader. They should have instead voted for Gore. All right. Now, people will tell you, like, if you talk to these sort of Nader type voters, they will have some sort of, a lot of them have some kind of moral commitment to saying, like, it is like, as citizens in a democracy, we are morally required to vote for our preferences, because the election is supposed to be measuring our preferences, not our sort of strategies. But I appreciate the sentiment. But if we're just talking about winning the election, they should have changed their mind. All right? So this is a manipulation. So plurality, this is another bad thing about plurality, I suppose. Plurality is manipulable. All right? What about the ranked choice? We should talk about that. Now, the ranked choice is more complicated to look at examples, but it turns out RCV also is manipulable. There are situations, now the strategies are more complicated, but there are situations where voters should not vote for their true favorites. They should instead think strategically about voting. And I'm just going to show an example here. So if we have, let's say, 6 people said A, B, C, 4 people said C, B, A, and 3 people said B, C, A, and we're doing the ranked choice. I'm going to try and do this quickly just because the ranked choice can take a long time if you really write down all the steps. But anyway, the ranked choice in the first round, I would say A gets 6, B gets 3, C gets 4. B is eliminated, all right? And then I go to round 2. Would you mind if I just try and sort of look at this in my mind? I'm looking at this again, but without the B's, only A's versus C's. Can anybody say who wins if it's only A's versus C's?
C.
I think C is going to win. I have 6 people like A better in the first column, so I'm doing only A's and C's. 6 people like A, but C wins the other 2 columns. That would be 4 and 3, which is 7. All right, so C is the winner. All right. C is the winner. Here, here, and here. Those are the winners. All right. Now, is it possible for any of these voters to achieve a better outcome? If I'm trying to look at this and ask who could maybe change their vote in a way which achieves a better outcome, I'm beginning to look at this one here. These people, their worst possible outcome occurred, and maybe if they had put B on top instead, maybe that would have at least got them their second place candidate to win. So I would look at this here. I would say their worst choice won. Maybe it would have been better for them to vote BAC, right? Like maybe in this election, it's not clear by looking at the numbers, but maybe in this election A is some kind of nadir, and they should have instead put B on the top. All right, so let's see what would have happened in that case. So if they do, in that case, can they actually get a better result? It would say 6 BAC this time, and then I'm trying to, sorry, I can't keep them all on, there we are. And then the rest the same, right? 4 people CBA, 3 people BCA. All right, and we're gonna do the ranked choice again. This time I get, A has 0 votes in the top position, B has 6 and 3 is 9, and C has 4. And so A is eliminated first. You can see things are going differently as they did the first time around, right? And then in round 2, it's just B versus C. And I see B on top 9 times and C only 4. So B gets 9, C gets 4. B wins. And this is a preferable outcome in their opinion, right? These people here, they changed their mind. It used to be that their worst candidate won, but now their second best wins, which is an improved result. All right. So just to conclude here, the ABCs get a better result. I mean, better in their own opinion by voting BAC. All right. And so this, sorry, I'm off the bottom. This is a successful manipulation using the ranked choice. All right. So the ranked choice voting is also manipulable. All right. Any thoughts about that one? So you'll have some questions on the homework. And also I said, actually, I think we might as well put a question on the test about manipulability. I know you're only learning about it right now, but you know, because it doesn't really matter if you get it wrong. So I figure you might get lucky and get it right, in which case you'll be done with that one. I hope nobody minds me putting this on the test when we haven't done a lot with it. If you don't like seeing it on the test, just don't do it. It's fine. All right, great. Now, I said we are not going to put a column on the chart for reasons which will become clear. It turns out the plurality is manipulable. The ranked choice actually also is manipulable. There is another one of these kind of mathematical theorems about voting. You know, last time we talked about Arrow's theorem, which says that dictatorship is the only method that satisfies the unanimity and the IIA. There is another theorem which, with, in my opinion, a better name. So this is, again, named after a person, but it's actually two people worked together on this. The first one, they both have great names, in my opinion. The first one is Gibbard, and the second one is Satterthwaite. This is the Gibbard-Satterthwaite theorem. And it says, this is another kind of bad news theorem about voting systems. It says, all systems are manipulable, except there is only one that's not manipulable. Anybody want to guess what it is? Yeah? It is the dictatorship. Of course, in a dictatorship, it's not possible for the voters to strategize and change the dictator's mind by voting in a weird way. All other systems are manipulable. Dictatorship. All systems are manipulable except dictatorship. This is the Gibbard-Satterthwaite theorem. Maybe a second place in terms of most well-known theorems about voting in mathematics. Arrow's theorem is definitely the OG of voting theorems, but this one is also something that is very well known. All right, all systems are manipulable. So there's not really much point in putting it on our little chart. You would basically have X everywhere except for dictatorship. All right. That means that this concern about manipulations is something that we just have to deal with for all of our systems. There are some that are better than others with respect to manipulability. And I just had one more thing to say about this manipulability, and then we'll talk about something else. I will just say some are worse than others. And this is something that I don't really want to get into exactly how you can tell what's better or worse. For example, in real life, plurality is regarded as, yes, you can game the system in plurality, but the strategy is so simple and everybody understands it that it ends up not being much of an issue. Ranked choice, there are strategies, but they're much more complicated and it's hard for ordinary people to understand them. And so this may be regarded as more of an issue. Manipulability is viewed as extremely bad in Borda. So some are worse than others. I would say Borda is especially bad, and this actually is the main reason why people don't use Borda in real life politics. Borda is especially bad because, and I want to do just a little example, when the voters strategize, crazy stuff can happen. If you're doing Borda in real life, the people actually will not typically vote according to their true opinion. They will vote in a way which they think will be most effective in achieving their preferred outcome. And you can see in this case, when voters strategize in the Borda system, it ends up producing crazy results. So here's an example. Let's just look at again the Bush-Gore Nader one last time with Borda. And I want to imagine everybody is going to strategize in the most extreme way possible. Imagine they all strategize. So the original, I will write the original votes as representations of sort of the true opinions. The true opinions of these people were 2.9 million people say Bush, Gore, Nader, as this is what I always write, Gore, Bush, Nader, and then 0.1 say Nader, Gore, Bush. All right. But I want to think about how would these people vote differently if they knew they were using the Borda. Of course, I hope you all remember, the Borda is the one with the points, right? 0, 1, 2. And if we add up the Borda points here, we actually did this example using Borda a long time ago. With Borda, I don't want to go through the calculation again, but Gore would be the winner with the Borda system. Gore gets slightly more points than Bush in this case. And of course, Nader gets almost 0 points compared to the other two. All right. But anyway, can we think about these? So assuming these are the true opinions, this is how everybody really feels about these candidates. How would they actually vote if they were trying to strategize? I'll say these are the strategized votes. All right. Those first column, 2.9 million, they said Bush, Gore, Nader in real life. I mean, this is how they truly felt. I think if they knew they were going to use Borda, actually these voters would not rank the three candidates in that way. Anybody agree with me? How do you think these people would vote if they knew they were using Borda? That is, in this system, this means when they vote, they're going to give 2 points to Bush, 1 point to Gore, and 0 points to Nader. You have to remember, in this election, the two contenders are Bush and Gore. The Bush voters want Bush to win, and they do not want Gore to win. Any thoughts about this? Yeah?
They would put Nader above Gore.
Yeah, I think they would vote in this way. And why do you say that?
Because Nader still would have the least amount of votes and Gore would get no points.
Yeah, right. These people, they want to dump Gore to the bottom because Gore is a serious contender. They do not want Gore to win. See, voting in this way actually gives Gore some points. And these people, they don't want Gore to get any points. Now here, they give Nader some points, but of course Nader's not going to win. And so, like, these people hate Nader, but it doesn't matter because they don't mind giving Nader a few points. They want to deprive Gore of points. So the strategy that everybody uses when you're doing Borda is dump your opponent. That is, you artificially put somebody all the way at the bottom, even though you don't actually, like in this case, they don't actually like Nader better than Bush. But because, they don't actually like Nader better than Gore. But because they want to beat Gore, they put Gore way at the bottom, all right? And I think you could imagine in our regular politics today, there's tons of like Trump haters out there. You can imagine they would do the same thing. They would put, Kamala on top, and then a bunch of no-name people, and then put Trump all the way at the bottom because they say, I don't want to give Trump any points at all, and I don't mind throwing some points to these other jokers because they're not going to win anyway, right? This is the strategy. Dump your opponent and put your favorite guy on top, of course. What about the Gore-Bush-Naders? In the same, for the same reasons, how do you think these people would vote?
I think they would have B at the bottom.
B at the bottom, yeah, right. Because these people see Bush as a threat. They do not want Bush to win, so they dump Bush all the way to the bottom. So 2.9 million people here. They are going to say Gore on top, of course, and then put Nader in the middle, put Bush on the bottom. Again, they don't want Bush to get any points from them. And the Naders, the Nader voters, these people, I think actually they would probably vote in this way. There's no reason for them to put Bush up higher. They actually like Nader the best. There's no difference in the outcome if they vote in any different way. So I'm going to just keep them the same. Nader, Gore, Bush. You might say these people, maybe they realize that Nader's not going to win, so they would put Gore on top instead. But these people, like even in real life, they voted for Nader. So I'm going to assume that they truly are going to insist on putting Nader on top, even if that's not a great strategy. All right. Anyway, the question is, what's the outcome now? Who wins now? Well, you add up the points. So let's actually do the math here. If you add up the points with the Borda, I hope everyone remembers how to do this. You multiply, so the Bush points, you multiply the number up top times the point value. So this is 2.9 times 2 plus the next column, 0 and 0. 2.9 times 0 plus 0.1 times 0. 2.9 times 2 is 5.8 million points, right? Those are the points for Bush. What about Gore? Gore is on the bottom in the first column, so that's 2.9 times 0, plus in the middle, 2.9 times 2. And at the end, they actually do get a point, 0.1 times 1. This actually adds up to 5.9 million, which is, this is more or less what I expect Gore to be slightly ahead of Bush when you use Borda. What about Nader? We might as well do the Naders. Nader is a 2.9 times 1. Plus a 2.9 times 1 in the middle, plus in the end, 0.1 times 2. Anybody doing the math along with me here? The answer is 6.0. Nader wins. Can you believe it? Almost nobody actually wanted Nader to win, but Nader ends up winning, because everybody was voting in a crazy way. All right, so this is what I meant when I said before, Borda is especially bad. When voters strategize, crazy stuff can happen. That's what I was talking about here. Almost none of these voters actually wanted Nader to win, but in their ambition to screw their opponent, they inadvertently caused Nader to become the winner. All right. So the moral of the story here is like this kind of extreme example is not really possible in the plurality or the ranked choice, but it is possible in the Borda, and this actually is why. This is the main reason why people don't use Borda in real life politics. All right, you could just before the election say like, "Hey, come on, guys, let's not do any of that crazy stuff. Let's just vote how you feel." But of course, like in real life, nobody's going to go for that. If I'm a Trump hater, I'm going to screw Trump when I vote. That's the correct move for me personally. But it turns out if everybody makes the same calculation, if everybody does that same thing, you're going to end up with a crazy result of the election, which is not reflective of the people's opinion. All right. This is the principal reason why we don't use Borda in politics. And this is why, like all the examples I've mentioned about Borda being used in the real world, about like adding up points, they're things like figuring out the winner in Mario Kart, or like things where individual rounds give you points is very common in athletics, where there's no such thing as gaming the system in this way when you're at the gymnastics meet or something. Everybody is going to try their best to get as many points as they can. There's no opportunity in that kind of a setting to intentionally game the system. All right? This is why you can tell your friends adding up points in politics actually is a bad idea for this reason. All right, excellent. We have 10 minutes remaining. I thought maybe we could just take 10 minutes or so to talk briefly about the test, since the test is on Friday. I thought maybe folks would appreciate, although to be honest, I don't have a whole lot to say other than sort of what's going to be on the test. So the test on Friday will take up the whole class period. And it has questions 1 each of number 1 through 10 on the list. And I hope you all still have this checklist. If not, you can print out a copy at the class website. But I will just shout out these topics, and I would be happy to talk about, for a few minutes about any of these if anybody wants to go over anything. But the topics from 1 to 10, plurality system, the ranked choice voting, Condorcet's method, and the Borda count. So those are the first 4, and those are just 4 different voting systems. You should expect a question that just says, like, here's an example, you tell me the winner using the Borda or whatever, and you just do it. So I hope that those questions will probably be very straightforward, as long as you can remember how the system works and you don't mess it up. Those should be fine. And then we have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are majority, unanimity, Condorcet winner criterion, monotonicity criterion, and the IIA criterion. So those ones, you will either have to write a proof that something satisfies something or other, or provide a counterexample that something does not satisfy something or other. So these are like the checks and the X's in the big chart. I will not expect that you have all of those things memorized, but you should be able to explain any one of them. Like I could say, explain why the Borda does not satisfy the Condorcet winner, or something like that.
Could you go over how you do a counterexample, like what you would expect in them?
Yeah, sure. So those are sometimes a little tricky. Like, how about just what I just said? Show Borda does not satisfy the Condorcet winner criterion. So this would be a possible question for number 7, right? Number 7 is Condorcet winner criterion on the list here. So since I'm saying does not satisfy, it means you need to use a counterexample. So in this case, we need a specific example with the A, B, C's, whatever. A specific example where the Borda winner is different from the Condorcet winner, right? Because that's what the Condorcet winner criterion says. If it does satisfy, that means that the Condorcet winner always also wins the election. But if it does not satisfy, it means that there is a Condorcet winner, but they don't win the election using the Borda. And this actually, I would not ask the question in this way, because this is just, you just have to make up an example out of nowhere which has this property. Now we have seen examples which have this property. For instance, there was like one big example with 4 candidates, A, B, C, D, which we did over and over again with each of our different methods. So, but I don't expect you to have that memorized or whatever. More likely, if I wanted to ask this question, maybe I would say something like, show that the Borda does not satisfy the Condorcet winner. How about this? This just by itself, I think, is not a reasonable question to put on the test. Show Borda does not satisfy Condorcet winner criterion using this example. And then I would give you sort of a specific example here. And then it would be your job to demonstrate that the Borda winner is different from the Condorcet winner. So the way you would do that is you find the Borda winner by adding up all the points, and you also find the Condorcet winner by doing the comparisons, and you say they're different. So yeah, for these counterexample ones, I probably would not ask you to just invent one out of nowhere. Although on the homework, I think that's a little more reasonable because you have more time to play around with it. But on the test, I don't think so. I was going line by line down the list here. I didn't quite get to the end. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are majority, unanimity, Condorcet winner, monotonicity, and IIA. And then number 10 is the manipulability. So I could ask a question about maybe similar to this right here. Maybe I could give you this example and say something like, show me how some of these voters could manipulate the outcome by changing their votes. And you would have to first find the winner, and then notice that these people, maybe they could have changed their mind to get a better outcome, and then demonstrate this. So that's the kind of thing you can expect about manipulability. Yeah?
For the groups, like for that middle part, you just kind of want us to like reference like what the actual like what the board would do, like the plurality system would do, like for the winner, right?
Yes. I'm not sure I understand, but
Like,
it sounds good what you're saying. I think so. Yeah, like the
like you
when
could reference like the specifics of the text, like for the middle part of it.
yeah, it must be the part in the middle. If you're trying to show like Borda satisfies unanimity, the stuff that you write better say something about the points in the Borda when you add them up. If you don't say anything about the points, then you're not talking about the Borda, and so your answer can't possibly be right. Yeah. All right. Yes.
Do you have any more questions than like the homework that was already given that we would practice?
Not really. I mean, I don't have ones made up. No. I'm happy to sort of try to make up more questions for you. I mean, it's probably, you can probably do it just as well as I can, but yeah, just the homeworks. All right. I guess people want to leave. Let me know if you have specific homework questions. The homework is due tonight. See y'all on Friday.